Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Embodied Divinity podcast. I'm so excited to have Jonathan Carrol with us here today. Jonathan is the founder of the Dragonfly Club and Title Transformation. He's also a coach, a spiritual mentor, and entrepreneur. Welcome, Jonathan. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, me too. So my audience is very used to this question. We're just going to dive right in. And I want you to tell us, how did you become this version of Jonathan Carrol sitting here in front of me today?
Isn't that the question, right? So I think like many of us who may find ourselves on some spiritual awakening path, there was something, or often there's been some catalyst that has cracked the seed open, so to speak. And often that's a difficult moment in our lives when we're faced with is this the version of me that's best served by the challenges I'm facing right now? Need a different version of me. And so for me, it was it's sometimes embarrassing to say, but it was a romantic relationship that ended, but wasn't so much the relationship itself. It was the pattern that I had noticed in myself of this kind of like repetitive breaking up, starting up, breaking up, starting up, and so on. And I like often many people do, I think at the beginning of their journeys, thought I was broken or fucked up or something was wrong with me. And nothing's wrong with any of us. We're all completely whole and beautiful, just like a tree in nature. But that doesn't mean that we have parts of ourselves that could use some exploration and understanding of where they came from. And oftentimes that is programming from our younger years, whether it was from parents or school or religion or government or you name it. We get layers and layers and layers of ideas pasted onto us about what is right and how to be in the world. And through our spiritual awakening, it's often a shedding of that. It's an unprogramming and discovery process of who you are beneath all of that. And so that for me has been the last probably 6-7 years of diving deep into me. Started with hiring a life coach. Then I was really open to working with energy workers and all the different types of guides and angels that would come my way. And I would just say yes to the invitations. And I developed this mantra, so to speak, that there's a gift in every invitation if you're willing to see it. And so that really started opening me up to new experiences, new ideas, new ways of being, new opportunities. Partway through my journey, I realized very early, actually, after hiring a life coach, I said to that coach, I think I want to do what you do. And without hesitation, he went, you would be an amazing coach. And I was like, oh my God, that's like, I think that's all I need to hear, And that gave me this real sense of possibility for what I could do with my life moving forward. I also loved the idea of being free, my own boss, and working with people as they strive to be the best version of themselves, like I'm trying to do. And so partway through that, I also discovered plant medicine, psychedelics, and went into ceremony. And I've spent the last 3 winters in Ecuador learning about that side of spirituality and growth and all of the beauty and gifts that are inherent in really the universe. Like these medicines were put on planet Earth for us to discover. And I think that's just one example of ways in to find ourselves and our inner voice and our inner guidance system. And so here I am today wanting to give back and share what I've learned and what I've experienced in the 6 years that I've been really diving into this, plus kind of tying in my my background before those 6 years of working in corporate, doing leadership programming and a variety of things. So now it's like bringing it all together. And as we would say after, plant medicine ceremony, it's time to integrate. So I'm integrating all of it in this real-time moment.
Wow, so many nuggets. And I mean, it really is incredible. I've noticed in my own life too, the way it all comes full circle, right? No matter what your moment was. And so many people that have been on this show's really catalyst moment was from relationships, because I feel like that's one of the biggest ways we learn. I mean, life wouldn't be life if we didn't have relationships. Every single thing is how we're responding to our relationship with something. And so I think it's powerful that that was your moment. And I think it speaks hugely of who you are, that you were able to take that moment and create so much beauty out of it, create so much healing out of it, and just really alchemize it into the life that you have now. What would you say on your path? Because when you're in that, so many of our listeners right now today are in that moment of integration where they're walking between two worlds. They're no longer who they used to be. They know that, but they're also not quite that voice that's calling to them inside yet. And so it's that void state, right? What would you say, if you can recall your own void state, would be your biggest piece of advice for moving into the other side with as much ease and grace as possible?
That's such a powerful question, NIkyla. I want to say a couple things. One is that the void state may take some time. There's a lot for us to explore in the void, and that is productive time. So to not idolize being out of the void, because you could bypass the learning that exists in the void. So for those of us feeling like we're in the dark night of the soul and when will this ever fucking end, and I've had enough and I'm done with I think I've had the very last learning I could possibly have, I can't handle anymore. Surrender, surrender, surrender. There's always more. And so I even had a reaction when you were like, from my void moment, I'm like, I could still be in the void, like I'll be okay with that too. And it could be the big yes and of, we are always crossing back into the void or moving into different, it's death and rebirth, death and rebirth, death and rebirth. As we release, we find the new, and we find more layers. They need to be released. And so it's a constant evolution. For the people that are feeling like they're between those two places, like I just came from my old self and I'm looking to the future, wondering what this all brings as I release people, places, things that no longer serve me. Just know that you're moving in the right direction, and it is an exercise in trust and patience and surrender, and to love yourself through it, which for a lot of people is one of, if not the first act, learning to self-love. And if you know that where you came from is not where you want to be, you at least know that that direction's not right for you. So stay moving in a forward direction. The other thing is to give yourself so much grace, because this new version of you've not taken out for a drive yet. So there's no evidence of who you are in different aspects of your life with the new version of you. So you really are discovering yourself in every moment as you make this. Yeah, it is quite exciting and also really jarring. And so there's a tendency to want to go back to the known because it's comfortable. And so sometimes people experience kind of zigzagging back and forth across that. Here's who I used to be. Here's who I'm becoming. Here's who I used to be. Here's who I'm becoming, because they're gaining more and more resilience to stand in the discomfort of not knowing. But you sometimes have to go back to what you know to realize, I don't want this anymore. Yeah. Move forward again. And it's like I go back, fill up my tank, and then hopefully less and less crossing back and just keep pushing forward.
I love that. One story that came to mind, I just heard this story a couple of weeks ago. I wish I could remember the coach that shared it, but it was a story of this whole process of unfolding is like you walk into a really deep, dark, scary forest, and you get through all of these obstacles. You see all of these monsters, right? You face so many different things. You get to the end, and there's this big, beautiful golden door, and there's a sign on the door that says the key is in the monster at the beginning. And you have to walk all the way back, retrieve this key, face the monster again, and then make your journey. It's more familiar, but you're still facing a lot of the same things. And then you finally get back and open the door. And that just like really resonated with me with what you were talking about. The void, while it is scary, it's also exciting. And it feels a lot like you're relapsing or going back or regressing. But really, you're just unfolding deeper versions of yourself. And they're all, I mean, just like you said, that old corporate leader, that mentor in a very different world, a very different frequency, he is still very valid and needed and present here in this current reality. And that's the same for all of us. Who we used to be always has a place in who we are now. It's just a more enlightened, open, awakened version of it. One word you spoke about that I love talking about this. We talk about this word so much, but I want to hear your perspective of surrender. Because for me, surrender is a very active, conscious state. I think a lot of people hear surrender and they think, well, I'm here, like I'm doing nothing. What do you want me to do? Like I'm surrendered. But for me, surrender is a very active state. What would you say surrender to this process looks like for you?
Surrender is giving yourself to the monster.
Yeah.
Surrender is knowing that the hard parts are here to shave off the pieces of us that aren't for us any longer. And as we give ourselves over to the fire, we're burning away what no longer serves. And that's scary, right? To walk towards the monster, towards the fire, to stand in it and to embrace it as what is serving our highest and greatest good. So many people will create stories or narratives around what they're doing. I think Jim Carrey has a really wonderful line, and I love it. People who are choosing, what is it now? It'll come to me. Or it won't come to me, but I'll get to it. But it's basically the idea that we will create a narrative or a story in our mind that we are in the right place, even when we're not choosing the hard stuff, when in reality, you're not, you're just stagnating. You are in the same place because you're not choosing hard. And every time you choose comfort, you stay the same, safe and small. And when you choose hard, you grow. And so the surrender process is a giving over of self to hard. That's my version of that.
That's really powerful. I know you talk a lot about really embodying your higher self and stepping into that energy of expansion. Expansion can be, for me, it feels like my heart is stretching open. And when we stretch a muscle, there are aches and pains that go with it. What would you say is been your experience as you surrender and also expanding at the same time? What are some of the finite steps you take to be able to keep yourself regulated and in tune with that higher self-awareness instead of just falling back into the illusion?
It's messy, to acknowledge that up front, to recognize, I mean, with some practice and experience, you learn that it's going to just be that way. And that also is the monster. That is the fire. That is the surrender we're looking for, is to choose messy. Because in that space, we free up the parts of ourselves that have been buried, hidden, grown over, those layers that we protect. And the messy is really about letting those layers go to find out, what else is here. And like cleaning out the closet, and deciding, putting everything on the floor and deciding, what do I want to put back and what am I giving away? So expansion comes from that process. We will be we can't have expansion without contraction too. That's something I think that we often don't necessarily acknowledge. So we'll go through these growth spurts, and then we need a moment to contract, integrate, to go within. And then from that place, we can stir and build the energy to expand again. And so if we're constantly fighting monsters, which for many of us who have trauma in our past or trauma in our present, that's hard on the nervous system. It's hard on the soul. It's hard on our spirit. It's a lot of energy intensive. If we don't have that stimulus, then we're in a better place to consciously choose to go into it. And that's where probably more productive, because we are aware of and have other faculties and more energy to slay the monster, be in the fire, stand with it, and know that it's serving our highest and greatest good. The expansion process is that contraction, expansion, contraction, expansion. You have to have both. And so each time we find ourselves in the challenging parts, it's my belief that we're readying ourselves for the next level of expansion. So again, it's like, if you want to grow, you're being invited to surrender.
Yeah, I love that you say that and really give validation to the contraction, because I think so many times, especially in a lot of the spiritual communities, that part, the void, the contraction, the darkness is oftentimes bypassed, but we really need all of those things to become our best and highest selves. I hate the word that I'm about to use, but it's really the only word that I can think of. How do we know if we're doing it right?
Probably based on the way we're tracking this conversation today. So if right means progress,
Yeah,
growth, healing, discovery, and becoming your higher self, your future self, then I would surmise that you're doing it right if it feels difficult by choice, versus difficult by being immersed in something that wasn't your choice in the first place, which can, for some people, actually be their comfort zone.
right.
If we grew up in trauma or difficult circumstances, then people become regulated to that. But choosing new and different is growth, and that sounds right to me.
I think that that's really powerful. And I think that that's a phrase that anyone in any circumstance and on any level of their journey can take with them, difficult by choice, because no matter what, life is hard at moments. It doesn't matter if you are in more of a place where you are a victim of your circumstance or consciously choosing that hard path. Either way, you're expanding. It's just in one way you have less power and perceived control than another, right? So I love that difficult by choice. I think that's really powerful because, and I'm just going to put it, I'm feeling called to put it into a very easy example for someone listening. If somebody's in a really crappy job environment and it's difficult, they're there in the difficulty. They're learning, expanding, and growing, but maybe on a less conscious level. Or they can take that leap of faith, and it's going to be difficult to build and start over, but it's something they're choosing, growing, expanding into. Both are expanding us, but one we're more conscious and in that choice power energy rather than being a victim of our circumstance. Is that what you were meaning as you said difficult by choice?
Yeah, 100%. Not to mention, the choice is about going into it with consciousness, that you are aware of the difficulty and that you chose it because of the opportunity it will provide for your own growth and learning, versus being a victim of your circumstances, not by choice, and doing nothing about it. That's not growth. That's not right. It's not necessarily wrong either. It just is. Sometimes we need to be in the shit for long enough to build the energy to tell us, I've had enough of this. And so when we look back on our past, at times we didn't move, or we took too long, or we stayed too long, or whatever, is to be very cautious that we don't judge ourselves because we were doing the best we could with the tools we had at the time. And when you consciously choose to shift or move forward or go slay that monster or stand in the fire, you're going to gain new tools. And so now you're upgrading.
I love that. So I kind of want to end on the theme of limitless potential and really living there. What do you have to say about even the phrase limitless potential? To some, it can be really exciting. To some, it can be really overwhelming. For me, it feels like a really powerful place to be, but what does that even look like for you?
I think the simplest example is to think about your role models in the world, people that are just absolutely slaying it, whether they're musical artists or they're performers or they're authors or movie moguls. It doesn't really matter, but people who are at the pinnacle or height of their game. Oftentimes that's a combination of natural talent and aligned action, being in the right place, the right time, believing in your dream, and knowing that the only way to get to the place you want to be is to continue pushing against resistance that would tell you you're not good enough, or you're not going to make it, you'll never be there. And for you to decide, I will, what do I need to do? And that's, again, the contraction and expansion and constant death and rebirth and pushing yourself against yourself. The limitless potential that's in all of us. So if we want to get, really into the spiritual side of it, it's we are each God, right? We are all the universe. We have all of the potential built inside of us. Some of us have a little bit more natural, a leg up based on our upbringing. And maybe this lifetime's been tough because of trauma or different challenges that you've had. Yet, that's not an excuse to stall yourself from striving for your dreams and realizing that you are only a decision away from anything you want in your life. There's a lot to learn, but you choosing to do nothing because you don't think it's for you is not seeing the limitless potential that's built inside of all of us. And so continuing to choose you is continuing to go into the well of limitless potential to find more, to find more, to find more. And to invite in opportunity, to invite in love, to invite in all the possibility that is out there, all of the synchronicities in one time, and to continue knowing that if I choose me, if I choose to go into the hard stuff, there's more for me to find.
So powerful. I absolutely love it. And I know that everyone listening here today is in that place of wanting to expand, wanting to step into just what is possible for each and every individual. And I know, Jonathan, you do so much incredible work with people, whether it's in one-on-one or in any of your programs. Do you want to speak a little bit about what working with you looks like?
Yeah, sure. There's a variety of different ways. The easiest is probably just hop into our free Facebook group, the Dragonfly Club Curious Seeker Society. And that's a new group that we've just started for people to come and just be around other people that are going through this process. There's many beautiful, wonderful guides in there, other coaches and healers, and then other people that are new to this journey of self-discovery and just want to kind of watch and learn and observe. And then I've got a high-level mastermind for people that are kind of doing this work, professionals, coaches, healers, consultants, other entrepreneurs, etc. And we meet every 2 weeks and we just hold space for each other and acknowledge that we're on this journey as entrepreneurs, light workers, looking to serve powerfully in our communities and in the world. And that's been really wonderful. That's the Dragonfly Club universe. And so people can reach out if they want to learn more about that. And then I work one-on-one VIP sessions with people. It's called my Amplified program. So looking to amplify people's presence in the world, looking to help them connect with the higher self energy that is within all of us. And what that looks like is having powerful conversations with you as your higher self. So I see the limitless potential in you. I see what's possible for you, even though you may think it's not possible. If I continue to have the conversation with the version of you that it is possible, you'll start to see that too. So those are really powerful conversations and help people to move in the direction of their limitless potential and compress time, because you've got somebody who's making it very real and possible across the screen from you, like we are talking right now. And you walk away with that from those conversations with a few action steps that helps you immediately integrate that into your life so that your life is transforming or changing in real time.
So amazing. And so many great ways to dive into this work, whether it's from your Facebook group, a group program, or one-on-one. I love it. And you guys can find all of the links to connect with Jonathan below wherever you're watching or listening to this episode. Jonathan, thank you so much for being here this week.
It's so nice to be here. Thank you so much. I had a really wonderful time sharing.
Absolutely. And everybody listening, as always, breathe deep and plan on miracles. See you next week.